Now speaking of dual male lead plus supernatural plus mystical plus relaxed plus ghost catching, my name is Jiang Xiaoyu, Shangheng Zong, the 36,572nd generation descendant. Master said that all things have spirits and should be treated equally, so what can be eaten on the mountain cannot leave the mountain. Master also said that cultivators should devote themselves to practice, so he traveled far and wide, and the creditor came to empty the sect. My master also said that people in the Tao should be honest and upright, so my senior brothers and sisters, who haven't changed a Taoist uniform in 4 years, can't even patch it. From childhood to adulthood, I was unlucky. When I ate, the mice on the beam defecated and fell into the food. When I used the restroom, it inexplicably exploded. I was sprayed with feces all over my body, and whatever was next to it would spoil. There were countless such incidents. My master said that when I was born, the ghost door opened and my luck was stolen by the ghost. That day, when I went fishing down the mountain, I caught a millennium-old ghost from the pond. Chapter 1. Falling on a Big Ghost. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. 4,720 years in the Gregorian calendar. Senior brother, when will Master come back? I'm hungry. The girl held her fingers and her small face was so thin that it was out of shape. Her broad Taoist dress was covered in patches, and her big eyes stared at Jiang Xiaoyu without moving. Jiang Xiaoyu touched her head and sighed, "Little junior sister, be good. Senior brother will fish for you to eat later. Today is the 3rd month since my master left, and the creatures in the mountains are almost extinct." Bang bang bang. A loud knocking sound came from the door, and the girl hugged Jiang Xiaoyu's leg in fear. "Senior brother, they're here again. The scammer opens the door, if he doesn't open it again, he will smash your broken Taoist temple." "Shoo." Jiang Xiaoyu asked the girl not to speak, and the door rang for a while before stopping. It seemed like she had left. "Junior sister, I'm leaving now. Hurry up and let go." Before he could finish speaking, the girl hugged his pants and only heard a hiss sound. The pants broke off from the base of his thigh and fell to the ground. The girl hugged his leg and threw herself onto the ground. Jiang Xiaoyu sighed again and skillfully picked up the hem of his pants. It was already the 8th time this month, and the thread had run out, so he had to put it away for now. "Junior sister, go find second senior brother and play with them. Senior brother will go fishing for you to eat." "Okay," the girl said and ran into the room. Seizing the only bucket and fishing hook in the view, the old gate collapsed before my hand touched it. Just now, being beaten like that didn't damage me. I haven't received it yet, but it's actually broken. Quickly avoiding the falling door, the door dodged but did not dodge the nearby dog poop. It stepped on the dog poop and fell upside down, still facing the dog poop. On an unlucky day, starting from the first pile of dog poop, Jiang Xiaoyu used his hands to pull off the dog poop on his face, picked up the bucket and fish hook on the ground, but fortunately, the bucket and fish hook were not damaged. My name is Jiang Xiaoyu, Shangheng Zong, the 36,572nd generation descendant. Master said that all things have spirits and should be treated equally, so what can be eaten on the mountain cannot leave the mountain. Master also said that cultivators should devote themselves to practice, so he traveled far and wide, and the creditor came to empty the sect. My master also said that people in the Tao should be honest and upright, so my senior brothers and sisters, who haven't changed a Taoist uniform in 4 years, can't even patch it. From childhood to adulthood, I was unlucky. When I ate, the mice on the beam defecated and fell into the food. When I used the restroom, it inexplicably exploded. I was sprayed with feces all over my body, and whatever was next to it would spoil. There were countless such incidents. My master said that when I was born, the ghost door opened and my luck was stolen by the ghost, which is why I am so unlucky. The disciples in the sect were all orphans brought back by their master during his travels, including myself, totaling 5 people. Master Zhang Tian, second junior brother Jianghu, third junior brother Jiangsu, little junior sister Jiangmeng, just turned 6 years old, was brought back by Master who went down the mountain to catch ghosts. Both parents were killed by ghosts. Jianghu and Jiangsu are twin sons, 5 years older than Jiangmeng, and their master doesn't know where to find them. Arriving at the back mountain and looking for a tree with many withered leaves, Jiang Xiaoyu took out a talisman paper and pasted it on the ground, silently reciting a spell. In no time, a rustling sound came from under the withered leaves. Jiang Xiaoyu carefully picked up a branch and hid far away, using the branch to scrape away the withered leaves. Black and large centipedes crawled out from inside, calling for earthworms and coming for centipedes. Fortunately, they were aware of their own luck and did not use their hands to pluck away the dead leaves. If they were stung, they might suffer. No earthworms, no centipedes. Pick up a few big stones, knock the centipedes to death with the stones, and then pick them up in a bucket. I don't know if the fish will eat the centipedes. The Taoist temple is located on a large mountaintop, and in the past few years, there was still some incense, which could barely sustain life. But in the past 2 years, the residents at the foot of the mountain have almost moved, and no one has come. The road up the mountain is covered with wild grass. Jiang Xiaoyu remembers what his master said. His luck was stolen by a ghost, and this mountain is covered by a fairy mist, which can ensure his safe growth. Once you step out of the mountain gate, you will immediately be crushed by ghosts and monsters, so even if you starve to death on this mountain, you cannot take a step out. The food that flies in the mountains, runs on the ground, swims in the water, and knots on the trees are all food for their senior siblings. What they need to do every day is to go out and find something to eat. Master also calculated an opportunity, which was that when he was 18 years old, he would meet a noble person, who had a certain bond with him before he could leave the mountain. He is already 18 now, but that noble person has not appeared yet, and everyone has some doubts whether his master is trying to coax him. Jiang Xiaoyu arrived at the edge of the cliff. A few days ago, while chasing a rabbit, he accidentally fell into a hole. There is a small pool in the cave, but it looks very deep. There are actually fish in the water, which are big and fat. They haven't eaten meat for several months, and their intestines are about to be pulled out. They don't bring any tools, so they can only leave first. Following the route in his memory, Jiang Xiaoyu found the cave, which remained unchanged from 2 days ago. I washed my face by the pond, and the smell of dog poop lingering in my nose finally disappeared. I took the centipede from the bucket and threaded it onto the fishing hook. Wearing the bait and throwing the hook into the pond, the water was very clear. The fish swam past the hook, and the little river fish held their breath and nervously looked at the hook. The fish probed a few times before swimming away. This fish is not discerning, there will always be discerning fish. Be patient and wait slowly. I squatted by the pool for about 3 hours, but not a single fish fell. He didn't believe it anymore. He had to catch the fish today, and if he couldn't catch it, he planned to camp here overnight. A huge fish swam to the hook, and the river fish held its breath again. The fish circled around the hook a few times, and finally, in anticipation of the river fish, opened its mouth and swallowed the fish hook. Jiang Xiaoyu saw the right moment and pulled hard, causing the hook to deeply pierce the fish's mouth. The fish was hurt and pushed downstream towards the bottom of the Tan River. I didn't expect the fish to be so strong that they almost got pulled into the pond. They pressed their feet against the stone by the edge of the pond, grabbed the fishing rod and didn't let go. When the fish was weak, they pulled it up again. This fish is even more powerful than the small river fish thought. Perhaps it has been staying in this spiritual pool for a long time and has also developed spirituality. This mountain is truly magical, and the animals in the mountain are very clever. The previous second was still strange, but this afternoon it went so smoothly. The next second, the fishing rod broke, and the little fish didn't stand firm and plunged into the pond. How could the caught fish make it run like this? The river fish caught the half of the fishing rod floating on the water and swam towards the shore. The fish seemed to have lost its strength and let it drag towards the shore. As it approached the shore, the fish exerted its strength and brought the small fish to the bottom of the pond. Unexpectedly choked on a few mouthfuls of water, struggled a few times in the water, and grabbed a string with his hand. Jiang Xiaoyu thought it was a fishing line, so he grabbed it hard. Then he climbed upstream and found out that he was holding a red rope. The other end of the rope extended to the bottom of the pond, heavy and curious, pulling the red rope up, wanting to know what was at the end of the rope. As it got closer and closer, with more effort, a figure flew out of the pond, and Jiang Xiaoyu was scared and collapsed to the ground. He caught someone up. The man was dressed in a crescent-colored brocade robe, with a cold appearance. His long black hair was half tied up with a jade crown, and his eyes were closed. The red rope from earlier was tied to the man's right hand, and he was covered in golden light. Such a profound merit can only be achieved by saving so many people. My attention was drawn to the man who suddenly appeared, and I didn't notice that the other end of the red rope was strangely tied to my left hand. Add a point. Each cultivation level. Ghosts. White ghost, green ghost, black ghost, ghost general, sharp ghost, ghost ba, sha, ghost king, ghost god cultivators. Cultivating chi from 1 to 9, building foundations, early, middle, late, golden pills, early, middle, late, elemental infants, early, middle, late, transforming spirits, early, middle, late, distracting spirits, early, middle, late, combining, early, middle, late, Mahayana, early, middle, late, and crossing tribulations. Note: the content of the novel is purely fabricated by the author. Chapter 2. Almost meets ancestors. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The red rope emitted a dazzling white light, and Jiang Xiaoyu covered his eyes. When he opened them again, the man was already standing in front of him, with a pair of phoenix eyes staring at him fiercely. Jiang Xiaoyu got up and looked at him fearlessly. Who are you and why are you in this pond? The man walked slowly, feeling a strong sense of oppression that made him unable to look straight in. Jiang Xiaoyu crossed his hands on his chest and said, "May I ask you something? This mountain belongs to my family, and if you come in, you will be fined." Shen Jixian raised his hand and grabbed Jiang Xiaoyu's neck to lift him up, staring at him with a sinister gaze. "Untie me," he said, cough. Cough cough, let go. Jiang Xiaoyu flipped his limbs and his face quickly turned red from lack of oxygen. Just as Jiang Xiaoyu felt like he was about to die, a mysterious force bounced Shen Jixian away. Jiang Xiaoyu fell to the ground, touching his neck and sucking in oxygen. Shen Jixian looked at his burnt right hand with a more sinister gaze. "I'll say it again, untie me." A golden chain was tied to his right wrist, with the other end of the chain tied to this human hand. For tens of thousands of years, no one dared to have an idea on him. Even a mere ant dared to peep at him. If it weren't for the ghost energy being weakened by the power just now, how could it have been trapped by a mole ant? What doesn't come undone? Jiang Xiaoyu couldn't understand what he was saying. What doesn't come undone? I won't charge you anymore. You should leave quickly. The humble ant dared to pretend to be stunned by him, offering a toast but not being punished. Shen Jixian raised his hand, and the strong ghost aura was visible to the naked eye, making the entire cave instantly look like an ice hole, cold and piercing. Jiang Xiaoyu couldn't move in an instant, his feet trembling incessantly. He thought he had caught someone, but he thought he had caught a big ghost. Even if he was unlucky, he wouldn't play like this. A ghost, covered in merits and ghostly aura, no wonder he couldn't recognize it. This time he's going to finish playing. He's so big, he hasn't even been out of the mountains yet. Heaven envies talent. Boss, I really don't know what you're talking about. I mistakenly entered your place. You're old and handsome, elegant and talented. Let me have a way of survival. Shen Jixian didn't want to hear these ants talk nonsense anymore. Since he refused to untie it, he would kill it. Killing it would naturally untie it. The ghostly aura that permeated the cave quickly gathered towards Jiang Xiaoyu. It was all over, and Jiang Xiaoyu closed his eyes in fear. Death has been missing for a long time. Opening his eyes, a golden spiritual shield protects him inside, and Yan Wangye's door has stepped in half a foot before retreating. I don't believe it, but there's no other way than a mole ant. Shen Jixian cursed with both hands, and a formation appeared at the feet of Jiang Xiaoyu. Within the soul-swallowing formation, even the soul would be crushed to pieces. I don't believe this ant can walk out alive. Jiang Xiaoyu felt that the spell-binding technique of this big ghost was not like that of ghosts and monsters, but more like the spell-binding technique of the immortal family. Without waiting for him to think more, the blood in his body flowed backwards in the blood vessels, boiling and colliding with them, about to run out of them. The skin turned blood red, and the little river fish took out a talisman paper from its pocket, bit through its fingertips, and blood spurted out. The fingertips swam rapidly on the talisman paper. Ancestors above, 36,572 generations of disciples, respectfully request ancestors to ascend. The talisman paper slapped on the formation, emitting a burst of red light. It lasted for 1 or 2 seconds, but it didn't appear for a long time. The entire Shangheng sect, with tens of thousands of ancestors, not a single one dares to come. This disciple has provoked such a big ghost, who dares to come out and give away the head. When Jiang Xiaoyu was driving the talisman paper, Shen Jixian felt the faint spiritual power from him and couldn't help but mock that this immortal sect had fallen to this extent. Jiang Xiaoyu spat out blood, and Shen Jixian's soul began to disintegrate, making it difficult to gather even ghost energy. The chain connecting the two was extremely hot, constantly burning his soul. Shen Jixian disregarded the backlash of the formation and forcibly broke it up. Jiang Xiaoyu fell to the ground and became unconscious. After the formation was broken up, the chain no longer burned. Walking in front of Jiang Xiaoyu, this magical tool couldn't even be unlocked by him. How could a person who couldn't even sense spiritual power be driven? Let me see, who exactly are you? Shen Jixian stroked the forehead of Jiang Xiaoyu, and the ghost energy entered his body. The only bit of spiritual power in his body trembled and hid in the corner, the 9 mirrors of the heavenly and Kun dynasties, floating for eternity. A mirror appears in mid-air, with a blank space inside, representing that Jiang Xiaoyu has no past life. You should know that after death, all things in the world must return to the Forgotten River. Forgotten River will wash away the cause and effect of the previous life, and only after crossing the Forgotten River can one be reincarnated from the gate of reincarnation. Those who commit heinous crimes will forever fall into the path of animal life. In this world, as long as there is a soul, there will be a past life. Even a bird or a fish can trace its past life, unless it is a flower, plant, or tree spirit monster that cultivates a soul. However, Jiang Xiaoyu is clearly a human. There is no previous life, but in this life, there is a natural spiritual pulse, but the spiritual pulse is self-sealing and all qi is lost. The natural spiritual pulse can generate spiritual energy for cultivators to use without the need for external supplementation. If you want to know, the innate spiritual meridian was able to make various major sects break through 10,000 years ago, and when the time came, it could soar. There was only one that appeared tens of thousands of years ago. It's also unlucky enough. If someone with no advanced cultivation opens their spiritual meridian, this will be the end of their life. Shen Jixian's eyes dimmed for a moment. The chain tied the souls of the two together, and for a while, he was afraid they wouldn't be able to untie it. Encountering me, it's fortunate for you ants, he said. Now we cannot let anyone die. The backlash brought by the magic array is not small, and there is no need to mention internal injuries. Even cultivation has regressed a lot. Shen Jixian was afraid that he would die and affect himself, so he used ghost energy to help him heal. Generally speaking, ghost energy cannot cure the injury of a cultivator, and others cannot, but it does not mean that Shen Jixian cannot. Taking back the ghost energy, Shen Jixian instinctively wanted to meditate and regulate his breath. He was stunned for a moment, but the spiritual energy was completely useless to him and would even erode his ghost energy. The mountain is full of spiritual energy, which is why there is not a ghost in the big mountain. Shen Jixian raised his right hand and examined the chain. As long as he didn't harm this ant, the chain wouldn't hurt him. This ant should be kept for now until I find a way to untie it, and it's not too late to kill it. As soon as Jiang Xiaoyu woke up, he saw the handsome face of the ghost brother and knelt down on both knees. "Ghost grandpa, let me have a way out. When I met you, I was so unlucky. Pooh, pooh. Look at my luck. If you kill me, it's better to keep me and continue to suffer. As the old saying goes, saving a person's life is better than building a level 7 pagoda. I will go back and burn incense for you every day, enshrine you as an ancestor, and then burn a big villa and sports car for you." Shenji sat idle and looked down at Jiang Xiaoyu, his cold and aloof eyes calm and profound. "Tell me which sect you belong to," he said. Jiang Xiaoyu dared not look at his face and lowered his head, saying truthfully, "I am a disciple of the Shangheng Zong, the 36,572nd generation. This ant has decent talent, and the elders in the sect are willing to help him unlock his spiritual veins. He will also be a great figure in the future, and the Shangheng Zong has been declining from generation to generation. Take me back." "What?" Jiang Xiaoyu suspected his ears. He didn't hear it wrong, did he? This ghost master wants to go back with him. Do you want me to say it again? No need, please. The ghost old man finished speaking, and the air around him became a few degrees cold. Life brought him pain, and he even smiled at life. Upon arriving at the entrance of the cave, Jiang Xiaoyu made a gesture of invitation. "Hello, sir." Shen Jixian looked at the half-person high cave entrance and waved his hand. The cave entrance was magnified several times by the ghostly aura, and when he walked out, Jiang Xiaoyu was still standing in place. "I haven't kept up yet. Here we go." Jiang Xiaoyu crossed the gravel on the ground and ran over. Chapter 3. Ghost Children. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shen Jixian looked at the small dilapidated tiled houses in front of him, each with a missing door, completely different from the magnificent Shangheng sect 10,000 years ago. The doghouses on the roadside are even more sturdy than this. If it weren't for the plaque hanging on the door, which reads, "Upright Emperor," I wouldn't have recognized it. What year is it now? Shen Jixian crossed the threshold and almost stepped on the dog poop on the ground, dodged with a flash. In 2023. Jiang Xiaoyu, who followed behind, took the path of this dog shit, took a detour and jumped in, landing a 5 thunder talisman that was electrified from the outside and tender from the inside. Stupid. Shen Jixian gave him a cold glance, wondering what year 2023 was. He had been trapped at the bottom of the pond since waking up, and he didn't know how many years had passed. Forgetting what trapped him, only remembering his name and some things in the sect, but he is a ghost, how could he possibly practice in the sect, and he has a deep hatred towards the sect. Little junior sister Jiang Meng heard a sound and ran out of the room. She saw that Jiang Xiaoyu was empty-handed, and the wooden bucket and fishing hook she went to were also missing. "Senior brother, where's the fish?" "Junior sister, didn't senior brother say, don't throw the 5 thunder talisman randomly, it's very dangerous to step on it. Usually, when I go out to find food with my junior brothers, it's not safe for my junior sister to stay alone in the observation. She leaves some thunder symbols for Jiang Meng to defend herself. I only drew one myself a month ago, and my junior sister still threw it around and didn't put it away properly. No, I haven't stepped on it." Jiang Meng blinked her eyes. Every time her senior brother stepped on the 5 thunder talisman, she never stepped on it. No matter where she placed it, senior brother would accurately step on it. This brother is so flashy. Seeing Shangheng next to him, his whole body was shining with golden light and fragrant. Master Ghost, my junior sister didn't mean to offend me. Don't argue with her, I'll give you 2 more incense sticks later. After speaking, Jiang Xiaoyu clasped his hands and bowed to Shangheng. Jiang Meng tugged at the corners of his pants and said in confusion, "Senior brother, we don't have incense." Jiang Xiaoyu covered her mouth, pulled her lips and smiled at Shangheng, "We'll have it soon." Before going out today, he calculated a divination. When the door to wealth opens today, there will be income. If there is income, then there will be money to buy incense. As we escorted our ancestors into the house and sat down, we ran to the corner of the wall with Jiang Meng and whispered, "Junior sister, please stay away from that old man. If something goes wrong, just run away immediately." "Why run?" Jiang Meng doesn't understand. "Brother Ghost looks very nice. Why did senior brother ask her to stay away? Brother Ghost even gave brother Ghost something shiny. Just listen to senior brother's words, you're right. Go find second senior brother and the others, you know." Jiang Xiaoyu thought he was far enough away, but Shangheng couldn't hear him, yet he didn't know that every word and action fell into his eyes. Jiang Meng nodded, and only then did Jiang Xiaoyu realize that his junior brothers were not in the observation. "Where are the second and third senior brothers?" "They're looking for food. After checking the time, it's already afternoon and I haven't come back yet. I want to go find them, but I feel uneasy staying with my junior sister and a big ghost. I occasionally poke my head out in the yard to take a look." As the sun gradually sets, Jiang Xiaoyu becomes more and more anxious and decides to go out and search. But the physical condition of the junior sister made him a little worried. She was born in the year of Shuangrui, during the Yin year and the Yin month. For ghosts and monsters, she is a great tonic for walking. The temple is guarded by ancestors, and once the master is away from the temple, nearby ghosts and monsters may be attracted. After weighing from side to side, he was able to deal with the ghosts outside, but he couldn't defeat the ghosts inside. In case he went out and broke the little junior sister's belly and bones. Jiang Xiaoyu decided to take his junior sister to find someone. "Junior sister, senior brother will take you to find the second senior brothers." Jiang Meng hugged his neck and asked in confusion, "Didn't master say you can't go out?" Jiang Xiaoyu picked up Jiang Meng from the ground, and before he could leave the observation room, a cold voice came from the room, "If you think she didn't die fast enough, take her out." There is a fierce ghost near the Taoist temple, which Shenji noticed when he was idle. It seems that he has been guarding the area for a period of time. As long as Jiang Meng steps out of the Taoist temple, he will be immediately taken away by evil spirits. Jiang Xiaoyu had just stepped out of the other foot of the observation gate and immediately withdrew, feeling very conflicted inside. With the words of his master at the forefront, Shangheng's words were like a spell. He dared not gamble on the life of his junior sister. "Junior sister, wait for me to come back from the temple, don't go out." Jiang Xiaoyu put down Jiang Meng and decided to trust him once. Shangheng's strength is profound and unpredictable. He is no match for him at all. If he wants to harm my junior sister, he won't wait until now. The 5 thunder talismans were gone, and Jiang Xiaoyu took out 2 safety talismans from her walking bag and put them into her pocket. "Hurry up." Zhu Youfu pushed Jiangsu, and the old scammer ran away. These little scammers have been hiding, and today he finally caught them. Jiangsu's feet were bumpy and there were some ups and downs when walking, but Zhu Youfu pushed them and one of them didn't stand firm and rushed forward. Jianhu reached out to catch Jiangsu and glared at Zhu Youfu, saying, "Don't touch my junior brother." "What's bothering me?" "Second senior brother, I'm fine." Jiangsu held on to the martial arts world, afraid that Zhu Youfu might take action. He had a thick and sturdy physique, and he and his senior brother combined couldn't beat him. After finally being able to recover the debt, Zhu Youfu became a bit irritable. Seeing Jiang Xiaoyu struggling to keep up, Zhu Youfu slowed down his pace. Anyway, since everyone had been caught, he was also anxious for a moment. Just as Jiang Xiaoyu walked out of the door not far away, he saw two people in the martial arts world, followed by Zhu Youfu. He quickly walked forward and said, "What's going on in the martial arts world?" Seeing Jiang Xiaoyu in the martial arts world, a little bit of hard bone softened just now. "Senior brother, we couldn't find anything to eat on the mountain, so Jiang Xiaoyu and I wanted to search for it at the foot of the mountain." Zhu Youfu grabbed the collar of the two people in the martial arts world and said, "You are the guardian of these two little ghosts. Hurry up and give me the money back. You release my junior brother first, we will repay the money." Jiang Xiaoyu glanced at Zhu Youfu's head and said, his head was so green that it shone brightly. To be precise, it was a ghost child lying on the ground, all green. There is a fairy pool on the mountain, and the ghost child is afraid and tightly holds Zhu Youfu's head, trembling all over. Zhu Youfu let go of the person and said rudely, "Warning you, don't play any tricks on me." Jiang Hu and Jiang Su ran to Jiang Xiaoyu's side, pulling his clothes. The ghost child stared at Jiang Xiaoyu with his dark eyes, as if realizing that Jiang Xiaoyu could see him, and showed a big smile. The corners of his mouth reached his temples, his mouth was full of sharp teeth, and red liquid kept flowing out of his mouth, flowing onto Zhu Youfu's head and face. Jiang Xiaoyu sneered at the beginning and said, "You come with me to the observation hall to withdraw money." Jiang Su tugged hard at the clothes of Xiaoyu from Xiaojiang, her eyes filled with worry. They couldn't even afford to eat, so how could they possibly have money? Jiang Xiaoyu signaled to reassure him and led Zhu Youfu towards the Taoist temple. As soon as he arrived at the Taoist temple, the little ghost on Zhu Youfu's head jumped down and lay outside the door, staring at him with round black pupils. Chapter 4. Picking up a big baby. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Senior brother, you're back. Jiang Meng ran out of the room and saw a stranger following behind him, looking a bit fierce. He then hid inside and peeked out secretly. Zhu Youfu looked at the dilapidated Taoist temple, with only one side of the door and a shaky appearance, as if he was about to leave the door frame at any time. "Hurry up and repay the money," he said. He had to hurry down the mountain before it got dark. The mountain was so deserted, but there was a Taoist temple here. The wild grass on the roadside was growing at the base of his thighs. From the moment he entered the mountain, he felt a chill and felt a little uneasy. "I don't have money, but I can help you, divine. I see that your printing hall is turning black, and the gates of evil are wide open. There must be a bloody disaster today." Upon hearing that Jiang Xiaoyu had no money, Zhu Youfu became anxious. Before Jiang Xiaoyu could finish speaking, he grabbed her collar and said, "Are you playing with me?" Jiang Xiaoyu held on to his collar, "But don't break it. If the collar is broken, he won't be able to wear it anymore." "After I finish speaking, I can repay my debt in other ways," he said. "No need, hurry up and pay back the money, otherwise we'll tear down your broken temple." Jiang Meng saw Jiang Xiaoyu being grabbed by his collar and rushed out of the room, hugging Zhu Youfu's leg and taking a bite. Zhu Youfu felt pain and subconsciously threw the person out. Watching Jiang Mengfei fly out, the hearts of the three of them reached their throats. Jiang Xiaoyu pushed Zhu Youfu away with force and rushed out to use it as a cushion for Jiang Meng. Ghost aura permeated from inside the room, holding on to Jiang Meng who had not yet landed. Jiang Xiaoyu fell to the ground and rolled a few times before stopping at the door of the room. The closed door automatically opened, and Shen Zhixian crossed the threshold and walked out, looking down at Jiang Xiaoyu at his feet. Jiang Xiaoyu saw a naked disgust in his eyes and got up to rub his sore shoulder. Jiang Meng was still suspended in mid-air, and Zhu Youfu blinked, thinking that he had misread. How could a person fly, unless he was pretending to be mischievous and didn't want to repay the money? One by one, looking young but with mature and experienced methods, they were even more despicable than that old scammer. It was almost dark now, and if we continued to entangle, we wouldn't be able to make any money. Zhu Youfu grabbed Jiangsu and said, "I'll take the people back. If you want to repay them, just give them back." After speaking, he pulled Jiangsu and walked out. Jiangsu tried hard to break free from his hand and said, "I don't want to go with you, let go of me, senior brother. If you want to die, just leave," Shen Jixian said coldly. Zhu Youfu paused under his feet and tried to deceive him, dragging Jiangsu away. Seeing him inexplicably leaving with his foolish junior brother, this fool would definitely go after him. He didn't want to follow him and glanced at Jiang Xiaoyu, "You go stop him." Upon hearing Shen Jixian's voice, Jiang Xiaoyu pointed at himself and said, "Are you always talking to me?" One by two, even more foolish than a pig, Shen Jixian lightly moved his fingertips and threw Jiang Xiaoyu out with a ghostly aura, which happened to hit Zhu Youfu. Zhu Youfu almost walked out of the door when he was knocked down by a flying river fish. The sun had already set and the yin energy had increased. The ghost child lying on the threshold crawled back onto Zhu Youfu's head. Jiang Xiaoyu fell in all directions, and a familiar smell rushed into his heart. When he opened his eyes, it was that familiar pile of dog poop. Jiang Xiaoyu got up, with dog poop on his face. He looked at Shen Jixian, who was full of immortal energy, and angrily questioned, "Why did you throw me out if you could just stop him?" As soon as he finished speaking, the temperature suddenly dropped, and a powerful pressure came towards him. The next second, Jiang Xiaoyu pulled out a standard smile and tried to please him, "You old and wise, I knew I was just a piggy bank, I owe you a drop." Shen Jixian looked at him like an idiot, but at least he withdrew his pressure. Jiang Meng looked at Jiang Xiaoyu with bright eyes, then at Shen Jixian. Big brother and master brother are having fun. Zhu Youfu's waist was broken by the smashing, and these little scammers ignored themselves. They chatted fiercely and couldn't even get angry. "I want to report to the police and catch all of you scammers," they said, "give him a vaginal opening." Shen Jixian looked at Jiang Xiaoyu, who stood still and didn't quite understand. "What are you driving? I can't understand such a simple thing," and Shen Jixian really suspects that he has been practicing feces in his mind for over a decade. "Believe it or not, I'll open your mind," he said, "I believe that you have a lot of money. Don't argue with me." Jiang Xiaoyu is afraid that he will start fighting if he disagrees. Younger martial brothers and younger martial sisters are still here for fear of hurting them. "Go." Jiang Xiaoyu had a loveless expression on his face. He really didn't know how to open his eyes and had never heard of such a thing. "Please be kind, I really don't know," he said. Opening yin eye is one of the most basic spells for beginners in cultivation. Shen Jixian didn't think he really didn't know it. He raised his hand and hesitated for 2 seconds when he saw the dog poop on Jiang Xiaoyu's face. His fingertip lightly tapped on his forehead. Jiang Xiaoyu noticed that there were many techniques in his mind, including the yin opening eye mentioned by Shen Jixian. In addition to this, there were many others he had never seen before. Did he fall in love with a wealthy man? He wanted to kneel down immediately and bump into him twice. "From now on, let me call you Dad. My dad, please help me with the dishes." Disguising oneself. Yes, I'm ashamed. If you keep teaching me a few more spells, I won't let your old people down. Jiang Xiaoyu looked expectant, and if it continued like this, the serf would soon be able to turn over and sing, defeat Shen Jixian, and make him bow down and call his father. "Do you want this?" Shen Jixian's hands were filled with a ghostly aura. As long as Jiang Xiaoyu dared to speak, he could throw it at him in the next second. "I'll go give him a vaginal opening." Jiang Xiaoyu turned around with a swoosh and, following the method in his mind, activated the few spiritual powers in his body to form a spell. His fingers crossed Zhu Youfu's eyes. Zhu Youfu watched him act on the scene, nervously pretending to be mischievous. What kind of ghost are you trying to do? Jiang Xiaoyu pointed at Zhu Youfu's head and said, "There's something on your head." Zhu Youfu looked up and saw nothing. He knew this little scammer was fooling him. He left Jiangsu and swung his fist to smash the small fish in the river. "Dare to fool me, don't give you any trouble, treat me like a bully. Help me, big shot. I'm colorblind." Shen Jixian did not expect to overestimate the spiritual power of Jiang Xiaoyu, unable to even use this small spell. Jiang Xiaoyu jumped behind Shen Jixian, and as soon as his hand touched his clothes, he was knocked out by the ghost aura. He should know that this big ghost is even more terrifying than this uncle. Zhu Youfu couldn't move in the ghostly aura. These piles and pieces combined couldn't be explained by pretending to be ghosts, unless there was really a ghost. I couldn't move for no reason. As soon as I thought that the person in front of me might be a ghost, my legs couldn't help but tremble. "You're a ghost, a ghost." After being shaken off, Jiang Xiaoyu rolled back. That's right, he rolled back. No matter how he flew out, the ghost aura led him to roll back. "Ancestor, why is this spell useless?" With a mournful expression on his face, could it be that he was too unlucky? This spell is not suitable for his environment and cannot be used. Isn't the spell in his mind useless? Extend your hand. If it weren't for this mortal body being unable to withstand his ghostly aura, he would have come faster himself. Jiang Xiaoyu reached out his hand, and Shen Jixian placed his hand on it. A force transitioned into his body, directly breaking through the bottleneck. His cultivation entered the qi cultivation stage, and he didn't stop until the later stage of qi cultivation was complete. Staring at Shen Jixian with two bright eyes, he made a lot of money and thought he had found a source of trouble. However, he didn't expect it to be a big treasure, and he suddenly entered the qi cultivation period. Shen Jixian withdrew his hand and said, "Try again." Chapter 5. Answer or disagree. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jiang Xiaoyu had a sly smile on his face, which made Zhu Youfu feel uneasy. "You don't come over," he said. "Don't worry, I will take it lightly." Mobilizing the spiritual power inside his body, he cast a spell and his fingers crossed Zhu Youfu's eyes. Jiang Xiaoyu withdrew his hand and made a pose, gently blowing his fingertips. His success was complete, and he was truly handsome and pitiful. Zhu Youfu opened his eyes again and saw Shen Jixian shining with gold. There was a black aura emanating from beside him, and he blinked in disbelief. The next second, Jiang Xiaoyu tapped his head with excitement in anticipation. "Shut up, look up, there's a splash of rice." He trembled as he lifted his head, a cute little green-headed person staring at him. His big black eyes revealed 18 big teeth, and he smiled brightly, with red liquid flowing out of his mouth. "Ah!" Zhu Youfu was frightened and fainted. Jiang Xiaoyu gathered his spiritual power and patted the ghost child's head, dissipating some of its ghostly aura. The ghost child opened his mouth to bite the hand of Jiang Xiaoyu. Jiang Xiaoyu quickly withdrew his hand and didn't bite it. The little cutie seemed a bit angry and opened his cherry mouth full of fangs, saying, "Wow, wow. Jiang Meng has a special physique and can see ghost children, but both the martial arts world and Jiangsu are ordinary people. They can only hear crying, but cannot see little ghosts. After the crying sounds, they have no spiritual resistance and walk towards the ghost child with dull eyes. Jiang Xiaoyu has spiritual power, but the ghost child's path is deeper than his. His cultivation level is not enough to resist the ghost child's crying. He feels lonely and scared in his heart, and wants to hug it." It opened its mouth on Zhu Youfu's head. The little ghost was not big, and its open mouth was the size of a blue ball. When the cultivator approached, it swallowed him in one gulp. Shen Jixian looked at Jiang Xiaoyu's foolish behavior. The ghost child cried twice, and his mind was bewitched. He raised his hand and pressed Jiang Xiaoyu to the ground with a ghostly aura. It had nothing to do with his foolishness. The broken chain in his hand had not yet been untied, so don't take him to death. His head was pressed down on the ground and rubbed, and his eyes quickly regained clarity. The ghost child's crying had a bewitching effect. His junior brothers and sisters had not yet woken up, so he gathered his spiritual power and rushed forward, banging twice at the ghost child's head, crying so hard, "Cover your mouth and cry." The little ghost was suppressed by Shanjixian and couldn't move. If it weren't for being suppressed, when Jiang Xiaoyu rushed over, the little ghost could have swallowed him in one gulp. Just as he was about to gather his spiritual power and give it another 2 strokes, the piercing chill persisted from head to tail, causing the little fish to shiver. Why did his back suddenly feel a bit cold? If you play again, I'll feed you to this ugly thing. The ghost child understood Shanjixian's words and waved his teeth and claws at Jiang Xiaoyu. He could feel that Shanjixian was very powerful, and even if he was scolded for being ugly, he dared not confront him. On the contrary, it was this cultivator who dared to provoke him beyond his means. Upon hearing Shanjixian's murderous voice, Jiang Xiaoyu turned around with a serious expression and said, "Please give me your orders. Wake up the person. He is good at this." Jiang Xiaoyu stumbled and brought a bucket of water over, pouring a refreshing chill on Zhu Youfu. As soon as Zhu Youfu opened his eyes, it was like a ghost child's face. A myocardial infarction almost healed, and he knelt down in front of Jiang Xiaoyu with a thud. "I beg the Taoist priest to save me, because I am blind. If I want to save me, I will agree to any conditions." As soon as he entered this Taoist temple, Jiang Xiaoyu claimed that he had suffered from a disaster of blood and light, indicating the profoundness of his Taoist behavior. At that time, he thought it was deceiving people, until Jiang Xiaoyu cast a spell and he could see the ghost on his head. Jiang Xiaoyu's eyes lit up, and the opportunity to make money came. He bent down to help him up, almost getting bitten by a ghost child and pretending to be profound. This little ghost has a deep way of doing things, it's not easy to handle. As cultivators, money is all external things. Poor my junior brothers and sisters, they have endured hardships with me and haven't even worn a decent piece of clothing. Zhu Youfu felt a little relieved in his suspense. Anything that money could solve was not a problem. Although he didn't have much money, it was worth saving his life. If he lost money, he could earn more. If he lost life, he would really lose it. I am willing to add some incense money to the temple and accumulate merits. Please help me collect this little ghost, Taoist. Boss Zhu, rest assured that this little ghost has lived to the end. Jiang Xiaoyu had a righteous expression on his face, and after finishing speaking, he rolled over to Shanjixian's side, flattering him and pinching his shoulder. "Boss, help me take this little ghost. Why should I collect it for you? There are many benefits. Firstly, the Taoist temple is dilapidated and small. I can be a bit aggrieved, but how can I be unfair to you? If you take this little ghost, you will have money. If you have money, you can buy big villas and sports cars. I will burn 10 or 8 buildings for you and change houses every day. Secondly, the temple has been out of food for 3 months now. If we don't make any more income, we can only drink from the west and north. Can't you bear to watch me and my young junior brothers and sisters starve to death?" Jiang Xiaoyu listed him one by one, which is a bit clever. This big ghost has wanted to kill him more than once. If he can jump around until now, there must be some kind of restriction that prevents the big ghost from moving him. In short, the big ghost dare not kill him. Since he cannot die, there is nothing to be afraid of. Shanjixian's idle eyes were deep in color, like a bottomless abyss, indifferent and distant, carrying an unnoticed coldness. Firstly, I don't need it. Secondly, it has nothing to do with me. Seeing that he doesn't eat soft food, let's make it hard. Jiang Xiaoyu went into the house and put a kitchen knife around his neck. Answer or not, if you don't agree, you'll chop yourself to death. Shen Jixian's indifferent appearance made Jiang Xiaoyu doubt whether he had guessed wrong. He gritted his teeth and forcefully scratched the skin with his kitchen knife, causing blood to flow out along the blade, scaring the martial arts world and Jiangsu. Senior brother, what are you doing? Put down the knife quickly and be careful when using it. Zhu Youfu, who didn't understand the situation, was also frightened, afraid that he might suddenly quack and no one would help him eliminate ghosts. Seeing the two of them so nervous about themselves, Jiang Xiaoyu was very moved and didn't feel any pain in vain. Senior brother can't bear to part with you either. The last knife in the temple, don't damage it. We don't have the money to buy another one. My senior brother's physical condition is so bad. The martial arts world nervously looked at the kitchen knife around Jiang Xiaoyu's neck, wanting to go and get it back, but afraid of damaging it. Jiang Xiaoyu. It's a heartbreaking feeling. Two white-eyed wolves, it's ultimately his mistake. Jiang Meng's cute little face furrowed, as if thinking about something. Senior brother, be careful, you might get hurt. Upon hearing the soft voice of his own junior sister, Jiang Xiaoyu's dead heart came to life again. It was better for the junior sister, knowing that she felt sorry for her senior brother. She didn't want those two white-eyed wolves to only feel sorry for the knife. The bucket is gone, and the fishing hook is also gone. If senior brother is not careful, second senior brother and third senior brother won't have a house to live in. Jiang Meng clenched her fingers and counted them bit by bit. The small cotton jacket leaked uncontrollably, making Jiang Xiaoyu's heart cool. The Taoist temple was in such a state of disrepair, and Jiang Xiaoyu can be said to have contributed immensely. Chapter 6. Kinship Line. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jiang Xiaoyu put down his knife, and the nearby martial artist quickly brought it over. After checking it, he breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the knife was not damaged. How will you be willing to help me? The Taoist temple is at a dead end, and the master still doesn't know when he will come back. It was only after a while that he finally made a progress and missed the next time. Help me retrieve my memory, I'll help you. When Jiang Xiaoyu saw Shen Jixian, he began to doubt whether he was the noble person in the mouth of his master, but he was a ghost and not a human. Thinking of his master's prophecy, he hesitated whether to agree or not. But it's been so long, and that noble person hasn't appeared yet. We can't stay here for a lifetime. With this money, our junior brothers won't be hungry after he leaves. I promise you, as long as you help me get rid of this little ghost, I'll help you retrieve your memories. Do you know, don't promise a ghost casually. Shen Jixian's cold gaze made Jiang Xiaoyu's heart shiver. He always wanted to bring an extra ghost down the mountain, I know. Extend your hand. Jiang Xiaoyu reached out his hand, his cold palm resting on it. The ghost energy overflowed from Shen Jixian's palm, entwined and spread over, and when it touched his own palm, it transformed into pure white and flawless spiritual energy. Shen Jixian regained his ghost energy. To eliminate this ghost child, he had to first find out the reason why it was entangled with Zhu Youfu. A black formation appeared at Zhu Youfu's feet, and a red transparent silk thread connected the ghost child to him. The silk thread wrapped around Zhu Youfu's body, from head to toe, some of it had already sunk into the flesh. Zhu Youfu was now like a red cicada pupa, with dense threads that made his scalp tingle. What is this? Kinship line. Jiang Xiaoyu has read the remaining ancient books in Guanli, but it is still the first time in reality that he has seen this kind of kinship line. This kind of kinship line is a link between close relatives and flesh, and the closer the blood relationship is, the closer the kinship line becomes. Judging from the degree of entanglement of this kinship thread, this ghost child should be Zhu Youfu's flesh and blood. Zhu Youfu also saw the kinship thread on his body and tried to pull it off with his hand. The thread grew into the flesh and couldn't be pulled out at all. Master, save me, he said. A middle-aged uncle was crying with tears and a runny nose all over his face. The scene shouldn't be too beautiful. Jiang Xiaoyu also wanted to save him, but the key was that he didn't know how to do it. He turned his head to look at Shangheng and said, "Boss, what should we do next?" Ask him if he is the best at it. Since this ghost child has a close relationship with Zhu Youfu, he must have known the cause of his death before he passed away. Knowing the cause of his death would be easy to handle. The kinship line has already been connected to Zhu Youfu's soul, and except for this little ghost, it will harm his life. After finding the cause of death, the kinship line can be cut off to eliminate this ghost child. The ghost child has a black and red spirit, and has created blood evil on his body. The ghost that has been killed cannot enter reincarnation again, and can only be eliminated. If you want to survive, answer my question truthfully. Zhu Youfu nodded repeatedly and said, Master Xian asked, I will definitely know everything and tell him everything I know. How did your child die? Child. Immortal Master, where did I come from? To be ashamed, he runs a restaurant with his wife and the business is good. The only regret is that he has never been able to have a child. He is your child. Jiang Xiaoyu pointed at the ghost child and said, Zhu Youfu was taken aback. His face turned pale, and he didn't know what was on his mind. He trembled and said, My wife has been pregnant several times, and every time she has an inexplicable miscarriage. The child's oldest month is 8 months, and this little ghost can't be the unborn child. Are you sure it was fetal arrest, not other reasons that caused the fetal death? I am very certain that the restaurant just opened a few years ago. Due to being busy with the restaurant business, my wife and I had no plans to have a child. Later, when the business became stable, we dared to have a child. At that time, we were already in our 30s, and the doctor said that older mothers could be at risk. We took very careful care of our wife when she was pregnant, but in August, the pregnancy suddenly stopped. The month was too big, and when I went to the hospital for induced abortion, my wife was bleeding profusely. The child was black and blue all over, and as soon as she came out, it was a stillbirth. I still remember the appearance of that child to this day. Zhu Youfu suddenly looked up at the ghost child on his head. He was shocked. He was just like the child. He was always afraid. He didn't notice the child's appearance. Somehow, he suddenly wasn't so afraid. After listening, Shangheng walked up to the ghost child and found a totem at its heart. The patterns of the totem were chaotic, resembling a ghost with blue teeth and fangs at first glance. What are you looking at? Jiang Xiaoyu leaned in and saw the totem in the ghost child's heart. He exclaimed in surprise, who is so vicious that he raised ghosts with his mother's body. As soon as he spoke, Shangheng couldn't help but take a second glance at him. This ant's magic was low, and he didn't expect to even know the ghost feeding formation. This ghost feeding formation happens to be recorded in ancient books. The totems on the ghost child are the same as those in the book. The ghost feeding formation uses the mother body as the cauldron, refining the unborn fetus into a little ghost. During this process, the changes of the fetus are no different from those of a normal fetus. During the 10th month of pregnancy, the little ghost feeds on the essence and blood of its close relatives. After 10 months, the little ghost will swallow the mother's soul and break out. The little ghosts raised by the ghost feeding formation are more powerful and ferocious than other little ghosts. Once raised, they bear the burden of blood and evil. Those who leave the formation will take their mother's hair or blood to practice controlling ghost bells, in order to control ghost children. Boss Zhu, did any strange people come to see your wife when she was pregnant, such as Taoist priests and monks? Yes, when my wife was just pregnant, a Taoist came to the store to make a fortune. At that time, my wife had not yet been diagnosed with pregnancy, and the Taoist immediately noticed that she was pregnant. He asked us to go to the hospital for a check-up, and he would come back the next day. At that time, my wife and I were preparing for pregnancy and wanted to have a child. We went to the hospital for a check-up, but we were just 1 month pregnant. The next day, the Taoist came and my wife and I treated him to a meal. As a reward, we also divined a divination for my wife, saying that our child will be extraordinary in the future and we can cast spells for him to ensure his safety and success throughout his life. It should be the Taoist who made the move. Jiang Xiaoyu asked again, did the Taoist take away your wife's hair or nails or anything like that? Yes, he asked for some hair. That's all right, it's just a little difficult for Jiang Xiaoyu to understand. This little ghost has already been nurtured, and from Zhu Youfu's words, it seems that his wife is still alive. According to ancient books, when a ghost child is born, the mother will die, and this ghost child was not born at full term, so perhaps the problem lies here. There are records in the book about the method of cracking, but this situation is somewhat different, and Jiang Xiaoyu is not sure if it is useful. Feeling the cool ghost aura, Jiang Xiaoyu's eyes lit up. The big ghost didn't know how long it had lived, maybe he would know. Boss, do you think it can be solved? Chapter 7. Cracking Methods. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yes, let's kill together. His ghostly aura suddenly rose, and Jiang Xiaoyu quickly stood in front of Zhu Youfu, afraid that if he didn't agree, he would startle him. Master, keep ghosts under your command. Let's find a different way. Don't be impulsive. Impulsiveness can't solve the problem. We need to be harmonious and make money. The 9 mirrors of the heavenly and Kun dynasties, floating for eternity. A ghostly aura bypassed Jiang Xiaoyu and penetrated into the body of the ghost child. A mirror image emerged, and the fetus began to become conscious in the mother's body after 3 months. Although it was only a few short months, it could still be considered as a lifetime. The previous life mirror could see the scene of him becoming conscious. The fetus in the mirror slowly grows up, with limbs. The small person is not even the size of an egg, and the totem crawls over the entire body, weakly wriggling inside the uterus. The fetus is getting bigger and can feel the heartbeat of the mother's body. The small person's mouth is slightly raised, it is smiling, feeling pleasure, touching the belly with small hands and feet, interacting with the mother's body. The centrifugal mouth of the totem is getting closer and closer, and the totem patterns are crawling all over the body. The fetus is in agony and uncontrollably trying to draw the mother's body. The souls inside collide everywhere, trying to escape from this cage. The formation begins to take effect, and the fetus loses consciousness, turning the mirror into pitch black. When the scene reappears, the fetus has already been killed by the formation, and its appearance is no different from that of the current ghost child. It crazily draws the essence and blood of the mother's body, making the ghost form more stable and eroding the mother's soul. At this moment, the ghost child was still trapped inside the fetus, which was connected to the mother's body by the umbilical cord. The mother's heartbeat suddenly stopped, and it suddenly went berserk as it collided with the formation. Its fangs tore at the barrier of the formation until it cracked open and escaped from its mouth. Upon seeing this, Zhu Youfu burst into tears and said, "When my wife was 8 months old, her heart stopped beating once. After withdrawing from the emergency room, the fetus stopped. Although it has been refined into a ghost, its subconscious needs to protect its mother body. Feeling that the mother body is in danger, it forcefully breaks through the formation, which is also why the mother body is still alive. The ghost child did not swallow the soul of his mother's body, and where did the blood on his body come from? Boss Zhu, is there anyone who died mysteriously near after your wife's abortion?" Zhu Youfu carefully recalled, "No. Not a single person has passed away unexpectedly in the vicinity in recent years. Where did the blood on its body come from?" Jiang Xiaoyu couldn't figure it out and couldn't help but kill. "It came with it. Want to know?" Shen Jixian suddenly spoke up, giving Jiang Xiaoyu an ominous feeling. "Suddenly, I don't want to." Not allowing him to resist, Shen Jixian pulled out his soul, his body lost its soul, and collapsed. Jiang Su, the martial arts world, helped him up and patted his face anxiously. "Senior brother, what's wrong with you? Wake up quickly." Jiang Meng looked at the newly appeared senior brother and said, "How come there are two senior brothers?" More precisely, it was the soul of Jiang Xiaoyu. Jiang Xiaoyu was floating in the air, watching as his body had not yet recovered. He was now a floating fish, and noticed that his left hand was tied with a golden chain. What is this? The other end of the chain is tied to a big ghost. It shouldn't be because this big ghost is afraid of him running away. Give him something on the chain to prevent him from escaping. Shen Jixian picked up Jiang Xiaoyu and threw it at the ghost child. Don't ask what shouldn't be asked. If you can't come out in half an hour, you don't have to live. No, big shot. At least you can explain it clearly first. The ghost child saw Jiang Xiaoyu flying over and opened his mouth, waiting to be fed. As he was about to enter the ghost's belly, Jiang Xiaoyu shouted loudly, "Ah! Help me, big shot!" A ghostly aura struck the ghost child's forehead, causing it to collapse. Jiang Xiaoyu was thrown into the ghost child's memory and threw a dog to gnaw on the mud. Standing up with his almost broken waist, I realized that even the soul would ache, and I thought that becoming a ghost wouldn't hurt anymore. I looked around and found that the room was clean and tidy, with a warm smell everywhere. The big ghost should have thrown him into the memory of the ghost child, so now it's time to go find the ghost child. Pushing open the door and searching for rooms one by one, the house was a 3-story small Western style building. From the decoration, Jiang Xiaoyu was very pleased. Mr. Zhu had a good life in his childhood, and he should also donate more incense money when the time comes. After searching around, there was only a woman in the kitchen, probably the wife of Mr. Zhu. It seemed that Mr. Zhu had not returned yet. The woman turned around and her slightly protruding lower abdomen revealed pregnancy at a glance. About a few minutes later, Mr. Zhu returned from outside with a ghost child lying on his head. At this moment, the ghost spirit on the ghost child's body was still black, and the blood had not yet been created. The couple ate together, while Jiang Xiaoyu sat at the dining table, drooling at the big elbow on the table. Why is it so fragrant? Seeing the taste of not being able to eat, it was really heart-wrenching. Out of sight and out of mind, he jumped off the dining table, feeling restless. Seeing the little ghost on Zhu Youfu's head, he reached out and slapped him. When Jiang Xiaoyu reached out, the ghost child opened its mouth and bit him, taking a bite off its arm. The pain made Jiang Xiaoyu's facial features wrinkled, and no one told him that the little ghost in his memory would bite people. The body outside twitched for a moment, and Shen Jixian's gaze drifted onto him. A slight burning sensation came from his arms, and this ant was seeking death again. A ghostly aura held down the restless little ghost. After learning a lesson, Jiang Xiaoyu didn't dare to approach the ghost child again this time because he realized that as long as he didn't approach, the ghost child wouldn't hurt him. Madame Zhu suddenly exclaimed with joy, "Old Zhu, the child moved just now." Boss Zhu put down his bowl and ran over like a little kid, rubbing against Mrs. Zhu's stomach. "Where? Let me take a look," he said as Mr. Zhu approached Mrs. Zhu. The ghost child's eyes on his head turned crimson. He jumped off Mr. Zhu's head and entered Mrs. Zhu's belly. Jiang Xiaoyu saw it eating the soul of the child inside Mr. Zhu's body. When he came out, the ghostly aura around the ghost child was black and red. He climbed onto Zhu Youfu's head again, and Zhu Youfu lay on Mrs. Zhu's stomach for a while. "Why hasn't there been any movement?" "The child should be tired," Mrs. Zhu explained. "It seems that the blood on the ghost child's body is all the unborn child in Lady Zhu's belly. If we find the reason, Jiang Xiaoyu will not stay much longer. His soul cannot leave his body for too long, and if he cannot return, he will really become floating." As soon as he came out of his memory, Shen Jixian sent him back into his body, opened his eyes, and said, "I know where the blood evil came from." He stood up with a swish, twisted his feet into a fried dough twists just 2 steps away, bowed down to Shen Jixian, floated for a while, and forgot that he had returned to his body now. Those unborn fetuses have all been eaten by this ghostly child, he said as he got up from the ground and walked like he had a severe inner ache. Senior brother, why are you walking inside? Jiang Xiaoyu felt uncomfortable as he walked inside the martial arts world. Now I'm starting to take care of my senior brother. I've been introverted since I was young, can't I be at 8 o'clock inside? Chapter 8. Removing Ghost Children. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The blood on the ghost child is heavier than in memory. Mr. Zhu has said that his wife has been pregnant several times and has all had a miscarriage, which seems to be related to this ghost child. Boss Zhu, I would like to meet your wife. The ghost child is the biological flesh and blood of Boss Zhu. It is believed that Lady Zhu also has a kinship line on her body. To eliminate the ghost child, one must first cut off the kinship line between the two, otherwise both of them will be in danger of their lives. Sure, I'll go down the mountain and bring my wife. Zhu Youfu was about to run down the mountain in a hurry when Jiang Xiaoyu pulled him back and said, You can't go. Your fierce gait is deeply trapped, and blood is shining brightly. Just now I glanced at his fierce door, which turned black and strong, indicating a great ominous omen. I don't know if I can come back after leaving this door. What's the point if I don't go there? Zhu Youfu looked puzzled. Except for him, everyone present didn't know where he lived, and the immortal master didn't let him go down the mountain. I have a way to send you back, but it will cost some extra money. Money is not a problem, what's the solution? I have to rely on my assistant. Jiang Xiaoyu smiled cleverly and took a step back. Shen Jixian protruded and was calculated several times. Finally it was his turn. I heard that a highly cultivated ghost can freely shuttle within a certain area. Let him take you back with him, Mr. Zhu. It's both fast and safe. Ants, dare to command me. Shen Jixian's cold voice was calm and composed, yet it gave people an irresistible deterrent. Boss, how dare I command you? We must have some troubles when we go down the mountain, and we cannot let you accompany me in the wind, food, and camping. You can wrongly treat me, but how can you be wronged? If it weren't for my low spiritual power and not as deep cultivation as the boss, how could I trouble you to drive us? I can swear to heaven that my heart to you can be learned day and month. Jiang Xiaoyu's words were very emotional, with his heart and eyes full of thoughts for him. Shen Jixian dared not even dare to give him 10 courage and used his ghostly aura to tear open a crack. Zhu Youfu stole a few glances. Shen Jixian had a graceful appearance, and it was not an exaggeration to say that the young master of the Mo Shang was as beautiful as a jade. The thought of being a ghost, no matter how beautiful, made his heart shiver as he looked at him. Master, do you think this assistant eats people? Boss Zhu, don't worry, he definitely won't eat people. Jiang Xiaoyu smiled and said, Big Ghost doesn't like to eat people, he only likes to crush one with one hand. With the assurance of Jiang Xiaoyu, Zhu Youfu confidently followed Shen Jixian into this crack. After a while, Shen Jixian emerged from this crack, followed by Zhu Youfu and his wife. On the way, Zhu Youfu explained the situation to Mrs. Zhu. Ask Madame Zhu if she wants some hair to be burned into ashes, ground together with cinnabar, dipped in the ground cinnabar to draw talismans. As long as she sticks talisman paper, the ghost child will be scattered. Jiang Xiaoyu reached out to Shen Jixian and said, Boss, lend me some ghost energy. He wanted to try cutting off this kinship line and also gain some ghost energy to cultivate his long cultivation. Shen Jixian looked at the outstretched hand, feeling a bit angry. Perhaps this ant had treated him like a blood bag and had no spiritual power, so he came over to take a bite. Jiang Xiaoyu looked at him pitifully and raised his hand to rest on his hand. The feeling of full body strength is simply not too satisfying. Jiang Xiaoyu is moving his muscles and bones, and is about to start working. Jianghu, go take out the kitchen knife, he said, wait a moment. Jianghu ran into the house and flipped out the hidden kitchen knife for him. Here, be careful when using it. Jiang Xiaoyu walked up to Zhu Youfu with a kitchen knife, carefully observing the kinship line. It was not easy to get started with all the ups and downs. Immortal Master, don't cut it wrong. Zhu Youfu was sweating coldly, and this little immortal seemed unreliable. Everything should not be cut off, and happiness in this life will come to an end. Relax, I'm a professional. Zhu Youfu pinched a cold sweat, and the immortal held a kitchen knife. This and that, how dare he relax? After searching for a while, Zhu Youfu finally sorted out one and raised his kitchen knife as he was about to cut it. He panicked and stopped. I can't cut it, I can't cut it. This is my lifeline, I can't cut it. Sorry, the kinship line was tangled up too much and couldn't find the end. Even if it was cut, it was useless. In the afterglow, I caught a glimpse of Shen Jixian beside me and said, I'm just standing there with food to eat. Why don't you come over and help me? Upon receiving Shen Jixian's gaze of death, Jiang Xiaoyu glanced at the nearby martial arts world and said, So, you're still staring around. Why don't you come over and help? The martial arts world looked bewildered. When did my senior brother call him? He doesn't know anything. Why call him? You'll be stunned. Jiang Xiaoyu turned his head to look at Shen Jixian. When will there be a leader with 1 in 10,000 wise and divine martial arts? Even the top of the view will be filled with smoke. It's like a big shot, there's nothing that can't be solved. We can't even find our family ties. After so many years of studying at the White Blind Taoist temple, we can open our eyes and see clearly how the big shot found us. Jiang Xiaoyu sternly reprimanded him, Boss, give my unsuccessful junior brother a demonstration and let him take a good look and learn more. No, senior brother wants this big ghost to help. Why use him as a brand? The martial arts world is just about to explain. Jiang Xiaoyu predicted his words in advance, if you're wrong, you're wrong. Don't argue anymore. How did your senior brother teach you? Be humble and accept, and be sincere in your character. After finishing speaking, he didn't forget to flatter him with a few words, it's only because the big shots are beautiful and kind-hearted that they are willing to demonstrate to you. In the midst of blessings, one should know their blessings. Jiang Hu. He is speechless. Jiang Xiaoyu casually swept over Shen Jixian, hinting so clearly that he didn't believe the big ghost to see it. Shen Jixian's expressionless handsome face flashed with a hint of thought-provoking expression, only for a moment, but he was still caught by Jiang Xiaoyu. This big ghost must have been moved and cried by his words. Jiang Xiaoyu looked at him eagerly, only to see the big ghost unleashing a ghostly aura. 2 kinship lines appeared on the ghost child's head, injecting spiritual power into the kitchen knife and swiftly cutting it off. The blade of the used kitchen knife is missing 2 notches, which makes the martial arts world feel heartbroken. The kinship line was severed, and Jiang Xiaoyu took out the drawn talisman paper and used spiritual power to move it, silently reciting a spell in his mouth. Madame Zhu suddenly spoke up, wait a moment. Jiang Xiaoyu looked at her, and the talisman paper in his hand had been activated by spiritual power. 1 minute of the divine talisman paper exploded directly. The talisman paper was not an attack type, but its power was comparable to the 5 thunder talisman. If it were an ordinary person, he might have already visited the Yan Wang family by now. Madame Zhu picked up the ghost child and felt uneasy as she looked at its appearance, with a hint of guilt in her eyes. Thank you, child. It was our husband and wife who caused you trouble. If you are still willing, we will be a mother and son in the afterlife, she said. Ghosts burdened with blood guilt cannot be reincarnated, and Jiang Xiaoyu couldn't bear to tell her the truth. Madame Zhu reluctantly let go of the ghost child, whom she had been eagerly anticipating. Master, let it be reincarnated, she said. There was still some ground cinnabar left, and Jiang Xiaoyu drew a new talisman, injecting spiritual power to activate it, breaking. The talisman paper was pasted on the ghost child's body, and the ghost child's figure gradually faded until it disappeared. Chapter 9. Guixu Sword. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The ghost child solved it, and Jiang Xiaoyu asked Shen Jixian to send Zhu Youfu and his wife back. Shen Jixian tore open the crack and threw the person inside. Jiang Xiaoyu dismantled a wooden board from the falling door and came to the main room with a kitchen knife to look for ghosts. "Boss, what's your name?" "I'll carve a card for you," he said. Shen Jixian closed his eyes to rest and opened his eyes when he heard Jiang Xiaoyu's words, "I don't need it." "What's the deal?" "I already said I want to offer you incense." "How can I offer incense without a plaque?" "When he finishes carving, he will put it together with the plaque of the ancestors of Shangheng Zong for easy incense." Shen Jixian stood up and walked towards the next room, followed closely by Jiang Xiaoyu. The next room was stacked with rows, and at first glance, there were at least 1,000 more. Seeing the expression on the face of the big ghost, it seemed like he was going to demolish the ancestral temple of the Taoist temple. Jiang Xiaoyu spoke up and said, "Boss, what are you doing here? They are all some broken brands, not very attractive." Shen Jixian waved his hand and grabbed a ghost from the air. When the ghost saw Shen Jixian, it seemed like it had seen a ghost and ran around, trapped by Shen Jixian's ghostly aura. "How can there be ghosts in the temple?" Jiang Xiaoyu looked at the ghost caught by Shen Jixian. "This big ghost came here and wouldn't come to catch ghosts, would it? It seems that ghosts can also improve their cultivation by devouring their own kind. Boss, are you going to eat him?" Upon hearing Jiang Xiaoyu's words, the ghost pointed at him and cursed loudly, "Unfamilial descendants, I am your ancestor." "I'm your grandfather," Jiang Xiaoyu rudely retorted, a little ghost who dared to curse his ancestors and teach him to be a ghost again every minute. The ghost was so angry that it was difficult to maintain its ghost form. "Unfortunately, the sect is unfortunate. Your little disciple has caused this trouble, and I will expel you from the upper horizontal sect. You are really my ancestor." This ghost looked sarcastic, thinking it was a wild ghost from somewhere. "I didn't expect it to be the ancestor of the upper Shangheng Zong sect. Boss, don't eat your own ghost. I'll take you down the mountain to eat some other day." Shen Jixian looked at the ghost and said coldly, "Take out the sword." "He didn't eat this dirty and smelly thing." A hint of unease flashed on the ghost's face. "What sword? What are you talking about? I don't understand." Shen Jixian had no intention of waiting for him to tell the truth. If he refused to take it out, he would just break it up and demolish the house, so he could still find it. A ghost aura struck him. The ghost's figure shook and became transparent, and now it was scared. Don't, I'll take it out right away." After finishing speaking, Shen Jixian disappeared into the room and withdrew his ghost energy, waiting for the ghost to return. The ghost returned carrying a silver-white sword, about 3 feet long, with a golden dragon entwined on the hilt and mysterious patterns covering the blade, appearing incredibly majestic. The blade was incredibly sharp, making it a true blade like autumn frost. Jiang Xiaoyu's gaze was drawn to the sword, which was so beautiful. It was crystal clear and snow-white all over, with a faint cold light flowing on it. Holding the sword in his hand, there was an incredibly familiar feeling. Shen Jixian looked at the sword and the words, "Return to the countryside," flooded his mind. "Take it." Jiang Xiaoyu looked at Shen Jixian incredulously. With such a beautiful sword, the big ghost wanted to give it to him. With trembling hands, he took the sword and said, "Boss, did you really give me this sword?" "I borrow you, don't delude yourself with my sword." He is now considered a ghost cultivator. This sword has an extraordinary level and cannot be kept for use. With the protection of these ants, he will unlock the chain and leave one day before returning. Jiang Xiaoyu didn't care, the sword was in his hand, and that was him. "Boss, you are so kind and generous. I must carve a card for you and hold it for incense every day." Speaking of the moment, there is a certain moment. Jiang Xiaoyu knocked around and asked for his name from this big ghost's mouth. He awkwardly carved Shen Jixian on the wooden board. The carved spirit card has not been cut off from the wooden board yet because the sword does not have a scabbard. Jiang Xiaoyu plans to make a scabbard and picks up the sword to compare. The length of the carved spirit card's wooden board is just right. I came up with a brilliant solution, which is to hollow out the middle of the spirit card and use it on the sword scabbard. The spirit card sword scabbard is double integrated, which can carry the spirit card on the body every day and solve the problem of the sword scabbard. Just say it and do it. Jiang Xiaoyu held a kitchen knife and carefully chiseled the middle of the wooden board to about 5 centimeters, but it couldn't be chiseled with the knife. He searched through boxes and cabinets for tools and worked hard all night, finally emptying it. I repaired the exterior with a kitchen knife, punched holes on both sides and connected them with ropes. The freshly made spirit card sword scabbard was combined into one, and the work was completed. Insert the Guixu sword into the scabbard is so short by 1,000,000,000 points, but it doesn't affect it. It's still very perfect. Carrying a sword and swaggering out of the room, Shen Jixian saw Guixu perched on an unattractive wooden board with his name engraved on it. He furrowed his brow, and the ant had been beating and pounding all night, creating such an ugly thing. Jiang Xiaoyu proudly showed him, "Boss, take a look at my newly made sword scabbard. Get out of my way, don't get in my way." A ghostly aura patted him away, and the words on it looked even better than a dog crawling. Immortal Master. Someone outside shouted a few times, and Jiang Xiaoyu's eyes lit up. With oil on his feet, he ran over and the one who delivered the money arrived. As soon as Zhu Youfu entered the observation gate, Jiang Xiaoyu rushed over with a wild smile on his face and said, "Master, I'm here to donate incense money. Boss Zhu, please come inside quickly. Jianghu, pour a glass of water for Boss Zhu." Jiang Xiaoyu led him into the hall. He took out a card from his pocket and placed it on the table. "There is 500,000 yuan in the card, to add incense and fire money to your temple. Also, I want to consult with the Immortal Master to do some divination." Jiang Xiaoyu put away the card and said, "What does Boss Zhu want?" "I want to calculate whether there is still a chance for offspring. He is 43 years old this year, but he doesn't have any children. He just wants to see if there will be any in the future. As long as there is one, it's good for both men and women. Previously, due to difficulties in cultivation, it was difficult to achieve results in cultivation. Jiang Xiaoyu's best skill was still divination, which cannot be said to be accurate or error-free, but it is also very reliable. After asking for Zhu Youfu's birth date and 8 characters, Jiang Xiaoyu calculated, "From the hexagram, it seems that you have a chance to inherit, Mr. Zhu. Let it be natural, and when the time comes, it will come naturally." Zhu Youfu exclaimed with joy, "Thank you very much, Immortal Master." After ascending the pillar incense, Zhu Youfu came down the mountain with this news. The money problem has been solved, and Jiang Xiaoyu is packing up and preparing to go down the mountain. Everything that needs to be explained is explained clearly, so that the junior brothers can take good care of the little junior sister. He has reached the end of his qi cultivation stage, unlike before when he had just successfully induced his spirit. He can only draw 1 5 thunder talisman for a month's spiritual energy. Jiang Xiaoyu took out a talisman paper and wrote a 5 thunder talisman for 10 minutes. He didn't stop until he had exhausted his spiritual power. He borrowed some ghost energy from Shen Jixian and returned to continue drawing. In addition to the 5 thunder talisman, I also drew some newly learned fire cloud talismans and imprisonment talismans. The peace blessings are simple, but good peace blessings consume a lot of spiritual energy, and the remaining spiritual power is just enough to draw 25 thunder talismans, 5 fire cloud talismans like imprisonment talismans, and 3 peace blessings. Except for peace blessings, Jiang Xiaoyu handed over all the talisman papers to the martial arts world to keep safe. This type of rune paper has been improved and can be activated without the need for spiritual power. After tearing open the rune paper, it takes 5 seconds to take effect, but its power is half that of spiritual power, but it is enough to deal with ordinary people. Jiang Xiaoyu came to find Jiang Meng and stuffed a few talismans into her pocket. Little junior sister, senior brother will come down the mountain tomorrow. Put away the talismans and don't lose them anymore. Chapter 10. Eliminating Demons and Descending the Mountain. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The things are packed in a urea bag, but there is no bag in the view. This urea bag was picked up by Jiangsu from the ground at the foot of the mountain, and the bag mouth was tied with a rope. Boss, when are we going down the mountain? Shen Jixian looked up at the outside world, and all his eyes converged in an instant. He said indifferently, tomorrow. Stepping out of the Taoist temple, I arrived at the foot of a heather tree next to the entrance. Its trunk was like a huge hand, stretching out. The branches were thick and sturdy, but only a few sparse leaves hung on the branches. The ground was covered with remnants of leaves. Shen Jixian caressed the upper branches, with the heather tree as the center, and the ghost energy opened up to form a closed ghost realm. Ah! A mournful scream came from the space, and a red and black ghostly aura constantly dissolved from the heather tree. The thick branches and lush roots of the heather tree withered in an instant. The female ghost dressed in red was pulled out of the tree by Shen Jixian. She had long black hair that reached her heels and turned her head suddenly. Since her face had no facial features under her black hair, it was more accurate to say that it had been dug out. Her face was still pockmarked and the edge of the knife could still be seen. Find your own way. The voice of the female ghost was sharp and piercing, like wire brushing through the glass. The black and red ghost aura filled the ghost realm, with blood dripping from its bright red color. Black hair stretched several zhang and stabbed toward Shen Jixian. Her long hair was like a knife, mixed with a terrifying ghostly aura. Shen Jixian remained calm and raised his hand, grabbing the female ghost's hair and pulling it, causing it to break completely from the base. The female ghost's face without facial features twisted and let out a painful howl. Her dry fingernails on both hands were pointed and long, damn it. It's all damn it. Shen Jixian let go of his ghostly aura. In front of the almost materialized ghostly aura, the black and red ghostly aura was like hitting a stone with an egg. The dark ghostly aura engulfed the black and red ghostly aura, becoming even stronger and making the female ghost unable to move. The female ghost was dismembered by Shen Jixian a little bit, which had no impact on her, but it would be excruciating, like a horse dismembered. After being dismantled, it will quickly restore its ghost form. As long as the ghost is not dispersed, the higher the cultivation level, the stronger the recovery ability. After being dismantled again, the entire ghost realm is filled with the screams of female ghosts. Shen Jixian slowly approached the female ghost, every step making her tremble. I hate being provoked the most, she said as soon as the words fell. The ghost energy tightly wrapped around the female ghost, and her ghost was torn into millions of pieces, completely dissipating. Shen Jixian withdrew from the ghost realm and turned his head to look at Jiang Meng standing at the entrance of the Taoist temple. He walked over and returned to the Taoist temple. Shining big brother. Jiang Meng reached out and grabbed his sleeve, with two crooked ponytails tied to his head, and his watery big eyes fixed on him. Shen Jixian lowered his head to look at Jiang Meng. Jiang Meng let go of his hand, took out a piece of broken tile from his pocket, and with a swipe at his finger, blood flowed out of his fingertips. He pulled up his hand, and there was a blackened opening on the back of Shen Jixian's hand. Jiang Meng wiped fresh blood onto the wound, and the wound healed instantly when it was stained with blood. Jiang Meng had seen the female ghost in red clothes a few times before, and she wanted to eat herself. Just now, the shiny older brother killed the female ghost and said, "Thank you, older brother." The coldness in Shen Jixian's eyes softened, and a small ghost aura enveloped Jiang Meng's index finger. The wound on his index finger slowly healed. Don't give blood to anyone, be careful not to leave any dead residue. It doesn't hurt, big brother won't hurt me. Big brother is good-looking and can even catch ghosts and ghosts. According to the appearance of those ugly things, Shen Jixuan changed his face and his features were covered in blood. "I will eat you," he said. Jiang Meng's face turned white, with a hint of hesitation on her face. After the hesitation, she seemed to have made a decision and reached out her hand. "Big brother, can you just take a few bites and eat me when I grow up?" "Stupid." Shen Jixuan held her hand and left a mark in her palm. With this mark, those ugly things would no longer be attracted. Jiang Meng retorted, "No, my master said I am the smartest and that master brother is the dumbest. When my master was still in the Taoist temple, my senior brother kept breaking things, and my master's beard would curl up, pointing at my senior brother and shouting, 'Stupid, even dumber than a pig.'" Xiao Jiangmeng didn't understand what a fool meant, but his master called him senior brother every day. Subconsciously, he felt that a fool meant senior brother. Shen Jixuan agreed on this point. "Your master has some insight." There were 5 people in a Taoist temple, old, weak, sick, and disabled. Their master was really not picky, picking up everything from the temple. With Shen Jixuan's approval, Jiang Meng's eyes lit up and he grinned with a small white tooth. "Senior brother is the dumbest." Ah Chio. Jiang Xiaoyu was drawing a talisman when he suddenly sneezed, with the lines almost the same. The talisman paper ignited a foot-high fire, and his hair and eyebrows ignited. The martial arts world brought in a bucket of water to extinguish the fire. If it were any later, the Taoist temple might have burned down. Over the years, he has come to a conclusion that with the presence of his senior brother, if there are no accidents, they have already occurred. Everything is quiet, and the senior brother must be a demon. A burnt smell came from his head, and he reached out to touch it. Some parts of his head were already burning bald, and he didn't stop. Jiang Xiaoyu used his Guixu sword to shave his head. Shen Jixuan returned to the main room and quickly approached with a bald head. Jiang Xiaoyu touched his bald head and cast a seductive glance. "Boss, is my new hairstyle handsome?" With his bare head paired with Jiang Xiaoyu's despicable expression and no eyebrows, he looked very lewd. Shen Jixuan couldn't bear to look down, with charred hair all over the ground. Guixu's sword was stuck in a pile of hair, with scattered hair on top. A ghostly aura slammed him to the ground. "Fool." This familiar tone made Jiang Xiaoyu instantly think that her master had returned and shout, "Jiang! Little dream!" Jiang Meng heard his senior brother's voice and turned around to see a bald man running out of the house. He was so scared that he quickly ran to Jiangsu. Zhu Youfu gave 500,000, and Jiang Xiaoyu left 400,000 for his junior brothers and sisters. He picked up something and went down the mountain. At the foot of the mountain is a long road, and walking along the road leads to a small town. When you reach the intersection, you can't help but notice a stack of money on the ground. Jiang Xiaoyu casually walked over and stepped on it, looked around and made sure there was no one around. After that, he picked up the money and put it in his pocket. As soon as he went down the mountain, he picked it up. It was the first time in 18 years that luck had been so good. "Boss, look, I've found money," he boasted happily to Shen Jixuan. "Fool, this is the money for buying lives from unjust ghosts." Shen Jixuan looked at Jiang Xiaoyu's smug and unaware appearance of causing trouble, and for the first time felt insulted by the word "stupid." Jiang Xiaoyu took out the money he had picked up from his pocket. The face value of the money was getting bigger and bigger, and the outermost one had the largest face value. It was really a life-buying money. "I've picked it all up, regardless of whether it's money for buying or giving away my life. When that unjust ghost comes to claim their life, I don't know who will claim their life."